Most people don't know where tofu comes from. Tofu's been around for close to 5,000 years. It was discovered, so to speak, from China. It's made from soybeans. And soybeans is one of many types of beans that we eat universally. It takes about 6 steps to make tofu. The first step is you have to source the soybeans. At Hodo, all of our soybeans come from the US. We source them by working with organic farmers. The key element that we look for when we source the soybeans is protein. We want a very high level protein soybeans. So once we get the beans, they come to us in a dry form. We soak them overnight to rehydrate them, to get them soft. This machine essentially takes the soaked soybeans and grind it into a soft slurry. The second step is we cook that slurry. So the reason you cook it is you cannot eat raw soybeans. Our body cannot process that. So you cook it to allow the protein to break out of the beans for easier consumption and for absorption by our body. So once we cook that, we separate the pulp from the milk. The pulp is called okara in Japanese. The okara is a food grade bean extract that we sell to a dairy farm. And the dairy farmer uses as feed, so nothing we make here goes to waste. The milk we use, and that's the foundation of tofu making. Step 3, how do we get milk to become bean curd or tofu? It's very similar to cheese making in that you have a protein-rich milk, just like cow milk, and then you add a coagulant to form it into a curd or a solid. In cheese making, you add a bacteria and you allow that bacteria to grow in the cheese to solidify it. In tofu making, we add a mineral called calcium sulfate. So what you're looking at is the milk getting pumped all the way from the milk holding tank into these bowls. And then you see 2 blades that comes out and mix the milk and the coagulant. And that mineral binds with the protein in the soy milk to form that curd. Once that process happens, we let that curd rest. And it goes around the entire chain of 40 bowls. Then we start the process of making it firmer, step 4. So how do we do that? We break that silken curd. In the breaking of that curd, we allow the water to basically seep out. The H2O between the protein, the water, begin to loosen up that bind. And the curd becomes more and more solid. Once the curd is broken with the blades and dumped into these molds using cheesecloths, we form them into pillow-like shape. And these shapes essentially will get picked up and placed on the press. Step 5 is basically you press the curd to make it firmer. So here we use air hydraulic presses to press our tofu into firm tofu. And the last step is basically removing the tofu from the press and removing the cheesecloths that we use to basically form that curd and cutting it into the shape that we want and packaging for the market. Hodo Soy is the only company that makes Yuba in the United States. Yuba has been called the sexier cousin of tofu, the lingerie of tofu, but Yuba essentially is tofu skin. It's a flexible, delicious, chewy form of protein. You basically simmer the soy milk at a certain temperature, and you wait for the protein to form. Essentially, what you're looking at here is the cream of soy milk. But unlike cow milk, where the structure is more yogurt-like, the cream of soy milk is actually more elastic. It smells great to be making Yuba, and I love eating it. That's why we make it here at Hodo Soy. At Hodo Soy Beanery, we focus on the quality aspect of tofu, keeping the traditional flavors and also the traditional method of making tofu. So give tofu a try.